Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Truth Cold Case Missing. This is episode 7, and at the end of episode 6, I'm doing it to you again. I said that I would continue into the Taj case, and I am pulling back from that because since posting that video in episode 6, I received some great questions, and I have things on my mind that I want to talk about. I will get back to the Taj case, and I will mention a little bit of the Taj case in this, but I want to answer these questions because I thought they were so good, and they came from different people, kind of similar questions, and then some different ones. But I really want to address these in a quick video and bring you up to speed as to how I think about certain things. So the first 2 questions that I got, first was the difference. What is the difference in working the case now, the Taj case, now as a private investigator or / regular citizen compared to as a detective? And then someone else asked, interestingly enough, what my relationship is now that I'm retired and I'm a private investigator. What is my relationship with active law enforcement now with this case or with any other case that I've been involved in? So great questions. And a spin-off of that is, do I think that law enforcement wants me working on the Taj case or any case for that matter? So here we go. What a difference in working a cold case as a private investigator as compared to a full-time police officer detective. And here is why. I do not have the red tape anymore. Or the red tape is not the greater percentage of the overall issues that I may have. Maybe a small portion. I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to ask permission to work on the case, to spend a couple days on the case, to get overtime because I have to do an interview after hours, or we're scheduling something that is going to be a big commitment in staffing. I don't have to ask someone if I can get somebody to help me. I don't have the regulations. I don't have the authority that I have as a police officer, and that's a great thing. I'm not really responsible to let anyone know what I'm doing. I choose to be responsible and share details of what's going on. That's out of respect. Because the case, Taj's case, is Lemonster's case. And it only makes sense that the two of us work together, as I also work with other agencies with his case. But it's great not to have to ask anybody. I can wake up in the morning and make a cup of coffee, and I can take a look at Taj's case for an hour, or I can spend 2 hours. I can do it at night. I can drive someplace and walk through an area that we have searched. I can arrange to have a search done. That is where I have to ask. That is where I have to send out emails or make phone calls and say, this is what I like to do. Can you join me? Let's put a date together, and really get permission to do that. I also need permission. I just can't walk into someone's yard. I just cannot walk onto land behind a house, or I have to ask permission, same as a police officer would have to do. The difference is that it really is just lower key for me now that I'm retired. And understand that I also continued doing this case for a few years before I got my private investigative license. What's the difference there? Absolutely nothing. As a private investigator, small business, I do not get paid to work this case. And I reach out to people, other people, as I need them. As far as Leominster PD, I work with them. I'm very transparent with them. I let them know what's going on. I submitted a report last year on what I've done, people I've talked to. They can have that. They can do what they want with it. And it's really working hand in hand. If they want to go and do something that, doesn't involve me, I'm fine with that. I'm going to continue doing what I do. I don't plan on doing anything that's going to hurt the case. I never have. So I believe that they understand that. There's a mutual respect there. And I will always, if I'm setting something up or whatever, I'll always let them know what I'm doing and have them come. Now, if they decided, or if something came up on their end, if they invited me along, then that's fine. If they chose not to, that's fine as well. I'm happy with what I've done in 22 years, and I'm happy that someone is willing to look at the case and learn the case the proper way and have this case active within the department. So do I think that, have I ever felt that they didn't want me doing this case? I mean, I think that's a natural feeling when you retire. Are you welcome to do it? I certainly do not want to have hard feelings or make it seem like I'm doing something without them, or that this case is my baby and I'm not going to share. I don't feel that way. I've said this. I hope anyone solves Taj's case. Anyone that has the information to do so, anyone that finds out information that can lead to the solving of his case, I welcome wholeheartedly. So I don't feel that that's how they think. They know I'm very well versed in the investigation. I've had it for a while now, and I know the old stuff. I know all the new stuff, and we have learned a lot of new stuff in 22 years. It's just amazing. Even as recently as last year, toward the end of summer, information that was never known, and it's mind-blowing, but very helpful. So I don't feel that there's any hard feelings with anyone in law enforcement that I work with, and I get along with everyone great. I've had no issues with anyone as a retired person, well, even as a police officer. A little bit of an issue at the beginning, but very comfortable with the people that I work for, and I know that the people that work and have helped me are very committed and passionate and are on the same page with me about it. So I don't think anyone feels that I shouldn't still have this case, and it's kind of out of their hands if they did anyway, because I can, just like anybody else, I continue to look into it. But I share with them, and I gladly share with them with the hopes of solving it. So someone else asked me, do I ever share my frustration with families? And another great question. That's why I love questions. And thank you for anyone who sent me questions on Messenger or whatnot, or shot me a text. But I talk about, why the cases go unsolved, why they go cold, the frustration of having not being able to solve a case. So is it ever something that detectives or investigators say to families? I'm so frustrated, or we can't do this. I think some do, and some probably don't. I think some feel that it's not professional to share that. But as an active police officer, I think that you could get yourself in a jam if you start criticizing what your agency does or doesn't do, what your district attorney's office does or doesn't do. And cold case units that are out of these district attorney's offices in Massachusetts, some are run with more of a priority than others. Have I worked in those? No, but that is the general sense. That's what people talk about is, it's a struggle in this county, and it's much better in this county when it comes to cold case investigations. Again, I'm a true believer that there should be one entire unit within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that consists of how many people that you want to put in there, that have all of the cold cases, that are all together with all that expertise, and they're worked right together. Easier said than done, but I just truly believe that instead of separating them all, you throw them all together in one big system, because it's probably a fact that there might be, well, it is a fact that there might be a link to missing child over in this county and missing person over in this county. Just my opinion. But why don't investigators share their frustration with families? Well, you really can't. You can't criticize your department when you're a full-time detective. You can't criticize your department as a full-time police officer. It's against policies and procedures. It's rules and regulations, to talk bad about your agency. So yeah, I learned that, toward the end of my career. Wow, we are limited as law enforcement with First Amendment rights to be able to say what you want to say and really fight for the cause, I guess, right? You fight for a cause on one side of things, but dare you say what should be different, right, while you're in there? Police officers would know what I'm talking about. The only people that can really speak up loud are union people, the top union people. But every police officer knows that things could change, they could be better, but they can't say it. And I am not by any means criticizing law enforcement and what they do. I work the job. I have the utmost respect for the men and women who put the uniform on and go out there every single day and deal with people who need them, but yet act as if they don't need them, right? That's what police officers deal with for the most part on a daily basis. So I have shared my feelings to families, to the Narbonne family, the frustration of not being able to solve something, the various frustrations. I personally feel that it's okay for me to show that I am human. It's okay for me to show that I have feelings, that I have emotions. As I mentioned in a previous episode, when I talked to Taj's grandparents, Eunice and Louis Narbonne, I saw their raw emotions, and I understood their frustration and their anger and their reluctance toward law enforcement. I did. I understand it. I understood it then, and I understand it now. And yes, I have shared my frustrations with not being able to get an answer. And it frustrates me to have never been able to give them an answer before they passed. So, yeah, it is important that we show the human side of us as investigators. I think if families and friends saw that compassion, saw that frustration, but also knew that you were committed to their loved one's case, they would understand a little bit better and not assume that you don't give a shit. I thought that was a great question. But you're not going to hear those criticisms from someone who is still active in a department. You're just not going to. As far as in the final question, I wrap this quick video up. And this was really great. I can tell when people listen to my videos, and they said, what would you say to somebody who was critical of you for not solving Taj's case, or was critical of investigators who were unable to solve a case. So we could break that down, but it made me think. And first of all, for me, it depends who it came from. If it came from the family, if it came from close friends, I would take it differently than if it came from someone who was just kind of out there that was throwing crap to see where it's stuck. They know nothing about the case. They're 3 states away. They just read things and they like posting things and being critical. If it was a family member or a friend and they were critical about my inability, of course I would be more compassionate with them because I know it's all built on frustration. And I would say, just be honest with them and say, I'm trying my absolute best with this. And as always, if there is anything more that you can offer me, I would appreciate it. Now, I've said when I talk to Taj's mom, and I talk to her several times a year, I just talked to her on his anniversary, 44th anniversary. And, it was a very emotional phone call, and it usually is. And I bring her up to speed the best I can. I don't give her false hope for anything. But I always end my conversation with, if there was anything more that you can offer, that you can talk to me. And that is not to say that she hasn't offered anything, or that that there's something there, right, that's lingering. That it's just to say, if there's anything ever that you remember, and that goes for anyone in a cold case, feel free to reach out. Nothing is too small. But I'd be more compassionate with family that is critical of me. More compassionate for sure. For other people, and maybe some parts of family or friends would fall under this next grouping where I put this. But for everyone else, I would say, what do you do to try to find this missing person? What have you done to try to help find a missing person? Where are you speaking from? What expertise do you have? What knowledge of the case do you have? But what have you done? I know so many people out there that look into cases, again, something I've mentioned, that are still looking into cases years old. And I have so much respect for them. So much respect for what they do and how good they are at it. And they are working. And I would be more understanding of them in their criticism of law enforcement based on how much information they gather compared to an agency, right? If they're finding more information than the agency is, well, there could be a reason for that. People are more apt to give information to non-law enforcement than law enforcement at times. We know that. That's a fact. But I think I'd give them the pass if they were being more critical. And again, I wouldn't say that, but I would want to know, what do you do to help the missing? What role do you play in it? Instead of being just critical. And that's why I have said, these social media sites that have pages for people, it would do wonders if people kept those pages as they are supposed to be. I'm not talking about a page set up in the case, in a couple of Massachusetts cases where, people are simply angry at the police. I'm talking about where a person is missing and then people throw, assumptions out there or criticisms toward the police like they're not doing anything. cases are still active, even though you don't see police officers. If you saw police officers in the area searching on one day or for 3 weeks straight, and then they're not there for several months, or maybe it's just because they're not parked in the same area. But these cases are still worked on, especially if they're only a couple years old. People just assume, and I guess it's sometimes that maybe my frustration comes from I have a lot more information, even though now I'm on the outside with a lot of different cases. And I know that these cases are active, and I know that searches are continuing, and that information still comes in and it gets checked on. But for those who are just so critical about it, what would I say to them? Yeah, what have you done? What are you doing? But I think that is really our world, because here's another great example, and I'm going to end with this. Social media. You post a missing child on social media, even if that child has been gone for 5 days. Anyone have information? This person has been gone for 5 days. Generally, it'll get, I don't know, 50 likes or a few shares, or you can check on any police department how many people like it or share it or whatever. But if you post a picture of a dog that is running down the street, it's shared 500 times and there's 3,000 comments, and so there's that difference, which is really striking. But things are different now, so especially with social media. All right, thank you for joining me. Episode 8, I will get back into Taj, because I got a few really good questions about that case, and going back to the reinvestigation of it, how we proceeded with it, and why we proceeded the way we did. I'm going to address that, and some other things. So thank you for the support. Please hit subscribe, hit like, and share if you would. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.